Hey guys, we are warming up into DevNet now. We're accelerating towards the talk that Susie is going to be giving in the innovation talk here shortly, and we've got some great information and education coming your way. DevNet is a topic that if you don't have it on your radar for where you're going next from a career perspective, it's going to be something you want to shift to quickly. They have got so much growing activity happening in their area. So online for doing 24 hours a day, but at every single event for Cisco Live, as well as the DevNet Create, some of the hackathons, the different things that they're doing. There are so many different ways to get involved minimally or completely in depth to understand exactly how we are programming our future and how we are changing the way in which we work networking in with software development and making those things mesh together much more easily. But first, I tell you what, let's go take a look at a video when we talk a bit about career development with Susie Wee right now.
Hi everyone, we're back at Cisco Live. We're talking to Susie Wee about one of my favorite subjects, DevNet. Susie, thank you so much for being here, welcome.
Thank you.
First, I just want to talk about, kind of in general, what DevNet is. Why are we focusing on developers at Cisco?
So DevNet is Cisco's developer program. And what happens is more and more of our portfolio has built-in APIs so that they can actually take part in the new platform economy. So what we have is, we have networks turning programmable, as cloud comes together, there's applications that are running through our networks and our systems. And so DevNet is Cisco's developer program to help our audience pick up the software skills that they need. If they already have the software skills, give them the help to deep dive and build innovations using our APIs. And we have learning labs and resources and events for people to get started and really get deep in software.
I love that, so it's not just for beginners, it's for people that maybe are experienced, but maybe aren't experienced using routers and switches and
Absolutely.
How to use those APIs and things like that.
And there's a whole mixture. There's sets of people who are like deep in networking, haven't had software as a day job in a while, but need to kind of re-pick up those skills. Or there's people who are like coding applications every day and need to understand what APIs does Cisco have and how can I use them. So we really have the whole spectrum.
Well, and as we dive into other hardware or other software even, and we go more to a hybrid or multi-cloud environment, which of course more and more customers are going to, how can DevNet help there?
It's amazing because what happens is there's been this whole world of like app development and we know that, there's all of kind of the sexy applications that are being built, there's so much work and investment going into the line of business to write applications, but the thing that we have to know now is as we go into this world of cloud, those applications are being written on a cloud infrastructure. Those applications are moving to microservices and containers that need to work across a very complicated hybrid cloud. It might have an on-premise private cloud, different types of public clouds, crossing a Google cloud, Amazon cloud, Microsoft cloud. So more and more we're seeing these kind of multi-cloud applications come together. And what we need to do is make sure that in the portfolio, in the networks that we're running, that we actually are building programmability in so that they can really handle those cloud workloads and multi-cloud workloads. So we're not leaving it up to the app developers to figure it out for themselves. We want to make sure that the networks that all of our partners are building and deploying and managing, that those can really be a primary helper for these multi-cloud applications.
That's fantastic. There's so much there. You talk about CI/CD, you talk about immutable containers or persistent storage even with containers, and it's a lot for people to grasp. So I love that DevNet exists to make that easier and to help people out, understand those things.
It seems so crazy and hard to get into these areas.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of complexity. That app developers, for instance, and cloud developers, they're feeling that complexity too. So imagine if you're an app developer and you have the responsibility to provide security for your data, for your applications, for your end users. You want a network. You want a programmable network underneath that's helping you provide that security. So our network and IT guys can really play a primary role in this kind of hybrid cloud and multi-cloud world, using the tools that we have and adding in that programmable layer.
That's really exciting to me, and I'm learning it myself, so I love hearing about it. We're here in Europe, of course, in Barcelona. Is there specifically something that we can help European developers with, or even European engineers with that are looking to get into development?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, there's a lot of technical enablement, right? There's folks just from across Europe who are building up the technology skills. They can go to developer.cisco.com or go to any of our events to really learn more about that. But In addition to the kind of technology and the developer enablement, we're actually doing some business enablement to help where now that we have these solutions, the solution that you deploy can be a combination of like Cisco products and Cisco infrastructure, but also software, and software that brings this into a whole new line of solutions that we can provide. And what we've been doing is working with the different country teams. So for example, working with the Italy team and actually bringing together the world of the newer developer ecosystem, bringing it together with our existing and current partners who have been so dedicated. So this world of software with our channels, forming those partnerships to make something go out. And one thing that we did is we actually created our first country-specific DevNet page for Italy. So
That's
we
fantastic.
have our DevNet Italy page where we're actually featuring some of the software innovations that have been built by our Italian customers and partners. So it's fantastic to show the solutions that they've made in the country and to work with these different countries to bring forward and move the ecosystem.
Well, yeah, we're talking about language, right? And we don't just want awkward translations of the English or American English version, right? To work with these teams, I think, is just absolutely brilliant. So, thank you for doing that.
Of course.
That's great. I hear a lot about network as a platform. First of all, what do we mean when we say network as a platform? And then, of course, how does DevNet help folks get to that network as a platform?
We were talking earlier about all the changes that are happening in cloud and applications and going to multi-cloud. Well, underneath that is a network. And you were talking about
there's
how
hardware somewhere,
there's
right?
hardware somewhere, and there's hardware and software in that whole network to make it all run. Now, these applications are just getting more dynamic, and as they're built as containers and microservices, you need to just move really fast, like have quick updates, continuous integration and delivery and everything there. For a long time, or for some years now, the compute has been programmable, where you could actually bring up different systems and different services and deploy them. But the thing that's changed is now the network is programmable too. So there's this world of DevOps that you have for compute, but we get to this whole new area that we call NetDevOps, whereas you're like deploying new applications and cloud applications and containers and microservices, the network can adapt as quickly to provide the resources that are needed. And so our whole new kind of portfolio of network programmability with the network intuitive enables this whole world of NetDevOps. And what happens is, it's just taking that network expertise, adding the programmability, and then that's what enables the network to basically be able to handle the newest workloads that the newest applications have today.
That constant feedback loop, kind of, and lifecycle management, and everything, the configuration management, everything that goes along with that.
Yeah, and there's this other term called network as code, where what happens is, just picture when you have different software releases, you're using version control, you're rolling out changes, but now you can treat the network as code. So when you're rolling out a configuration change, you can actually roll that out as a software change, bring it back in, do the assurance to make sure that the network is indeed doing what it's supposed to and optimizing the performance of those applications. So there's this whole new world of NetDevOps where you're treating the network as code, and that's an area where Cisco, but mostly our partners and customers, can really lead the way in that journey and be really relevant to this kind of next generation of applications.
That's so awesome. So if someone wants to get started doing these things, this network or infrastructure as code, how can they get started? If they're here, if they're not here?
Yes, if you're here at Cisco Live, you can certainly go to the DevNet zone. So we have just a whole session of deep dive API sessions. We actually have a security challenge, a black hat, white hat security challenge, where you have someone hacking a system and someone trying to defend it using some of our products. We have, again, learning labs, all sorts of resources here at Cisco Live, and we have them at all the Cisco Lives. In addition, if you're online, you can go to developer.cisco.com. And if you go to developer.cisco.com, we have learning labs. We have a sandbox where if you want to get going on Kit quickly, you don't have to buy a router, buy security systems.
That's the hardest part,
rolling.
I think. So that's
that's getting
fantastic.
set up. So we want, kind of software development for the network to be as easy as it is for writing a mobile app. And that's what the DevNet Sandbox provides.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Susie. I think we learned a lot. Can't wait to dive into developer.cisco.com some more.
Thank you so much, Lauren.
Everyone, thanks again for watching.
I remember the first time I was going to meet Susie Wee, and I remember getting prepared. I was not familiar with DevNet, and this was early days. And I remember thinking, Susie Wee, what a fun sounding name. And then I meet Susie Wee, and I'm like, what a fun person, and a great leader. Everything that is going on with DevNet, and the growth, and the crowds, everything there is focused, and it's so well aligned with Cisco Live from my perspective, stemming from our history of networkers, and the fact that it's so much about education, and it's about transformation of the individual as well as of the enterprise and of where we're going next. And that's precisely what the next video starts to dive into as we start talking about what does this really mean for the enterprise. We're just coming minutes away, well still a few minutes away from speaking with Susie live on stage in just a moment in her iTalk, but right now, let's take a look at what software development for the enterprise means.
Hey there everybody, thanks for joining us. Welcome back to the Cisco TV studio here in Barcelona at Cisco Live 2018. We are talking now about enterprise applications and specifically Cisco developers. How do we build more secure, better performing applications that run on Cisco networks so we can deliver more transformative business value? I've got three great guys here with me right now. I've got Jock here with me. You're a technologist for Cisco DevNet. So glad to have you here. Thanks for taking the time today.
That's great, Dan.
All right, down on the other end, Matt DiNapoli, DevNet systems engineer. Glad to have you here, pal.
Thank you.
And then Casey Bleeker. Casey is a business development manager, senior sales engineer, developer evangelist. You also call yourself a growth hacker. Would you explain that to us, please, while we're here today?
Yeah. Didn't know you read my bio.
I had to totally read your bio. When I see something like growth hacker, I'm not going to leave that sitting on the table. We're going to talk about it.
Yeah, so we've at Cisco, we've been very focused on how do we expand into the application developer realm. And we've been doing that with things like Spark for development. Now we're very focused in IoT and some of the different network technologies and protocols that Cisco is very focused on and DevNet is very focused on. And so that's part of our job is we're just trying to grow that community. And DevNet's a huge portion of that.
Absolutely, and it's got such far reach, and that's kind of where I want to start out in the group conversation. So Jock, let me start over here with you. Let's talk about this from sort of a B2B or a B2C approach. What do you think really differentiates enterprise application development from consumer application development? If we look at what Cisco is doing on our platform, who are we talking to, and why are we developing in the direction that we're creating?
Yeah, so I think the biggest difference between enterprise and consumer is enterprise data is absolutely more critical than your typical consumer data. And so people are making business decisions, business workflows off of the data they're getting from the new set of devices that we're putting out there, and it's got to be consistent, it's got to be secure, and it's got to get to us quickly, and we got to be able to process that whether it's on the edge or the cloud, and that's really the biggest difference between consumer and enterprise.
So do you think, guys, I'll toss it back over to you here on this end as well, Matt, do you think that we approach how the application is developed in a different way if we're looking at it from the corporate structure or from the individual user structure, and if so, how? How do we compare those?
Yeah, actually I was going to jump on what Jock just said specifically to that purpose. There's a differentiation for the developer as well. The things that they have to take into consideration, the concepts that they have to learn, how they architect their applications, those things are different between someone that's going to be using a mobile application for individual use, gaming, something like that, versus someone who's building a business critical application. So those are specifically developer concerns.
Absolutely. Okay, if we take a look at an enterprise app developer, why do they care about the rise of the networking development, guys? I mean, does this really impact them and their daily basis? Are they building based on the demand that they hear, or are they just kind of making it up on their own?
Yeah, I would say that business application developers they need to care about the network APIs, and they need to care about delivering these applications differently, because if they just take something that's out of the box, then they don't have any competitive differentiation for their business. And I think that's something that every business out there right now is trying to figure out, how do they either disrupt their industry or prevent being disrupted? And a lot of times that means they need to create in-house innovation. They need to actually create new outcomes that their competitors can't do. And I think that's what's really unique, is that using the data from the network, building your application to be aware of the network, delivers entirely new line of business outcomes that create a whole new suite of outcomes and business relevant potential for the application development that allows them to be competitively different from their competitors in the market.
How successful, just on a personal view, I mean, if you guys were to attach your own personal individual percentages, how successful are we actually being at getting it done? I mean, conceptually, it's such a great idea, right? Are we achieving it? Are we getting done what we need to get done? I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we are. I think especially for Cisco, we're meeting people at the needs that sometimes they don't even know they have yet, because they're getting there and they're having these troubles and they don't know how to solve these problems, and then we're coming in with DevNet and the APIs and the technologies and the training to be able to teach them how to properly manage the network, connect it to their applications or their things or whatever they're trying to connect to be able to create those business workflows like Casey was saying, and just be able to create a new set of data and business that we never had before.
Because on the DevNet side, we can give them all of the tools that they need to survive. They have to come in and they have to take advantage of what we have to offer them, right? I mean, we can build the greatest widget in the world. If nobody shows up, what good does it matter for us, yeah?
Exactly, and I do think at DevNet we are running into an issue where it would be very helpful for the customers and partners to help us understand what their pain points are. Mm-hmm. We can teach them all of the tools and all of the methodologies to get them to a certain point, but where we can bring extra focus is where their exact needs are. What applications do they need to build? What are those outcomes that Casey was talking about that they're trying to get to? Because a lot of us, we were systems architects, or we've done implementations in the past with organizations similar to the customers and partners that we have now.
Always listening, always paying attention.
So I would say, if I had to give a percentage to your point, I'd say we're only 50% there. I think we have a lot more good work we could do into that space to specify helpful solutions to our partners and customers in the field.
Which means we've also got a lot of potential for growth, right? And a potential for more success. What type of applications do you think we're seeing today that are really changing the industry, redefining it? I mean, we're always building slowly, bit by bit. What are we seeing that are big changes today, and what do you think we're likely to see in the very near future if we were to go to it, Casey?
I think one of the biggest changes we've seen in the recent era is edge applications. Edge meaning, and this is an industry term that has all kinds of synonyms. You know, hybrid fog, cloud compute. You know, hybrid cloud compute. You know, edge fog fabric. Right. All kinds of names, but really, edge compute ultimately means that your application is running both in the cloud and in premise. And there's so many actions that are business relevant that need to happen in real time. There's so much data that needs to stay locally for machine learning, artificial intelligence training. There's just lots and lots of use cases where leveraging the extensibility and scalability of the cloud, but also leveraging the different types of use cases you can use by running workloads and business logic locally is incredibly important. And I think that's what we're seeing is edge processing and the ability to dynamically push business logic into your network to say, data gets routed based on these exceptions. These types of business processes now execute in my network, and it's easy to manage and easy to deploy. That's opening up all kinds of new use cases for application developers, where in the past they've just always been conscious of how do I deploy an app? How do I just have a basic server somewhere? Now it's how do I deploy, the way I deploy my business logic can actually change the outcome of that you're working towards.
Yeah, anything else that we want to add on to that? Isn't this really a complexity versus simplicity argument when you get right down to it? I mean, we have to simplify everything if we're going to get where it is that we need to go. We're adding more complexity as we go, but the way we get to it is actually simplifying the process for everyone. Wouldn't you agree?
That's the idea, I think, and that's why the API layer exists, in my opinion, to abstract any of those scenarios, to abstract that complexity for the network integrations, or the applications integrating into the network, so that the developers can take advantage of things like APIC, managing the applications from the controller and being able to adapt the network as those applications are being run.
And I'll add to that too. A lot of the data used to be incredibly complex to get. Application developers who've always just built web apps or consumer apps, they never could even comprehend how they would collect all that data. And that's part of what we've tried to do is say, A, we've made the collection of the data really easy, and then we have learning labs and modules and sandboxes for application developers who know nothing about core network technologies about how to access that data and get that value out of the network. And that's really what DevNet's trying to do, is make that easy and abstract that complexity to deliver these really, really cool outcomes.
It's really cool, and it's very exciting because when people stop by DevNet, they check it out here on the show floor, they're going to see everything that you guys are talking about. Jock, how do we bring all of this together? So we talk about building, we talk about getting to these great new capabilities, new skills, new tools. How do we get these tools? Do they exist now? Are we building these tools? Or are we going to have to create them together in order to get where we want the industry to be?
So I guess the best answer is kind of like all the above. They exist now. We are building new tools, and we're looking for feedback from the community. If you come and you use our trainings and you want more, if there's something that you feel like is missing, you tell us and we'll build that for you. We're also building new content right now as we're sitting here. It's getting built. We're putting new stuff out every day. I mean, this is what we do. This is what we're excited about and passionate about, just helping developers and enterprise level application developers just be able to access all the core logic and the data, just like Casey and Matt have been talking about. And that's basically what we do, and it's something we're just very passionate about.
And again, we're going to be able to see that passion if people come by DevNet, if they talk to you guys, take some one-on-one time. They're going to see it. Again, you can hear it in your voices. You're going to see it when you stop by and visit with everybody at DevNet. I wish we had more time to keep this going, but really appreciate your time today. So Jock, Casey, Matt, thank you guys so much for being here. And of course, to all of you who are watching and tuning in, thanks to all of you as well. Hope you're having a phenomenal time here in Barcelona, and we'll see you here in the studio throughout the course of the week. Bye.
You know, there's just something you have to love about a team that says, hey, if there's a tool or a resource that you need that would help you do things easier, we'll build it for you. Man, that's ideal. And that's exactly the mindset that these guys have, not only within DevNet, but what they're actually kind of helping infect, if you will, not only our customers and our partners and the way in which we all interact, because it's both a combination of technologies, but it's also a movement and a change in mindset. And from a Cisco perspective, it also includes changing how we design our products. DevNet had a lot on their plate right from the get-go with saying, how do we encourage all of Cisco products and technologies to have more open APIs, to be organized, and how those APIs are set up so that people can access them, so we have common libraries and language, which becomes very important to adoption and the ease of transition between things as we move forward. But they mentioned tools and resources, and tools exactly what we're talking about on this next video. Let's take a look at that right now.
Welcome back to the Cisco TV studio. So glad to have you all with us. We're going to spend the next few minutes talking about accelerating learning, putting into action these new tools, new resources for developers, for network programs, and I've got three fabulous humans sitting here in the studio with me. Mandy, Whaley, here with us, Director of Developer Experience at Cisco DevNet. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
All right,
Very excited to be here.
Tom Davies, Senior Manager, Senior Architect, DevNet. You lead a terrific team. You are building out our global system, DevNet Sandbox. We're going to talk about Sandbox functionality throughout the day, so thank you for being here as well.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, then Hank Preston, Network Data Center Cloud Evangelist Guru for Cisco DevNet, so I'm really glad to have you with us here as well, Hank.
Thanks so much. It's always a good time to come and talk on Cisco TV.
Absolutely, and I'm glad to have all of you guys together because you can really riff off of one another. You're all, again, playing in that same sandbox with one another, so we should have a good conversation here. Mandy, I kind of want to kick this off with you. You've got a real passion for bringing different technologies together to solve business problems. That's really what you're all about. Network programmability. It is overwhelming for so many engineers. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to start, where to begin. What advice do you have to get them underway and going in the right direction?
First advice is to come to DevNet. We've really put a big, come to the DevNet zone, spend some time with us there. We have all these experts on hand that can answer questions. And then our team who works on developer experience for Cisco APIs, we spend a lot of time building tutorials, sample codes, sandboxes, tools that can get you started learning. And it's also sort of a map of here's the technologies that are important to the area that you work in and why they're important and how you can map them together. And one of the things that Hank has been working on is a video series about getting started with network programmability and sort of all the building blocks that put that together. So Hank, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the video course was really exciting because one of the things that really drew me when I joined DevNet about a year ago was that I looked around to all of my peers in network automation, network engineering that have been doing this for years and weren't sure how to get started with all of these new technologies that we're going through. And so we sat down and we came up with the curriculum for the Network Programmability Basics video course. And we've set up over 6 modules, 28 videos that take people through in a very curriculum basics on how to get started. So introduction to programming fundamentals, network device APIs, controllers, and then moving into application hosting, and even some of the newer themes like NetDevOps and using some of these new open source tools and concepts for network automation, because those aren't just for the software development anymore.
DevNet has laid it out, right? The tools are there. This is simple, but you've got to ask the questions. You've got to start the conversation to get where you need, right?
That's right. And the other great thing about the video course and the other tools that we have is it's not just the tools, there's also the community of people who are learning those same things inside of Cisco, outside of Cisco, in the open source communities, and they're all there together in Cisco Spark rooms, talking to each other, in forums, asking questions. It's a great way to connect with someone who may be working on the exact same thing that you are and get that community support.
And I love that aspect of DevNet. That's really what the show is about. When we come together for these Cisco Lives, it's about community. If there's a bottom line word that we're going to come to, it's getting everybody in the room to talk to one another and create things together, and that's what happens here at the show better than anything else. There's so much added into DevNet. We got learning labs, we've got DNE events, we've got the video course that you were talking about. What do we have coming up? What can people look forward to in the future? What are the next steps on the DevNet side?
So from a sandbox perspective, we just released a whole bunch of new sandboxes for 2018, things like DNA Center they can get their hands on right now to accelerate the learning around that. We've got Istio with our Google relationship forming quite well there, and we've got a whole bunch of new iOS XE and NXOS. So we're going to expand that to have always on NXOS, huge networks that people can spin up to based on viral that people can spin up really quickly to get hands-on with our equipment, and we're going to do more in the container space as well as we move forward in the cloud piece to show off what we can do there.
Yeah. Some of the other things we've got coming up, in addition to our Cisco Live DevNet zones, which we're always at, all of the Cisco Lives around the world. This year we're also doing DevNet Create, which is a conference specifically for developers, and that brings in a lot of the open source community around IoT, around NetDevOps, around cloud, and that's coming up in April, and so we're really excited about that, and that's where we'll be turning our attention to very quickly as we come out of this show, is on, we've already been doing a lot of planning for it, is getting ready for that event.
When I look ahead to next year, what's really exciting for me is we spent the last year laying a really good foundation to get people started in the network automation, the programmability space. And I'm excited about this upcoming year to start to build on that foundation, dive into more advanced use cases, provide deeper concepts into container networking, cloud networking on those, so that we can take the basics people and start showing them how they can advance and actually make real changes in their day-to-day life inside of enterprises, small, medium, large, service provider. There's so much that we can do with programmability, and now that we've got this solid base that we can build on top of, we can actually start to show real value on top of these capabilities.
It's such a different conversation than we were having about DevNet even 5 years ago, right?
Yes.
It's a wide plan, it's more of a scattershot plan, but at the same time it gets so specific based on exactly what people are coming to you guys and demanding from you,
That's
right?
Yeah, the other area, in addition to the network APIs, is that we also have a lot going on with our wireless and the location-based aspects of that. So really unlocking the data that wireless networks can give to developers about where people are in an event and where they're visiting frequently, and all of that information that you can then build into applications people can have on their mobile device and people can make decisions on. So there's a lot coming with the combination of location data, IoT sensors, and what that can really do to enable customer experience, event experience, all these things that affect us in the physical world that we can build on top of.
Absolutely. I'm going to kind of back up a little bit and go to the personal side. As you build out these sandbox capabilities, what does sandbox actually mean to you on a personal level? If somebody comes up and says, give me the basic, what is sandbox from the DevNet perspective?
So the basics of Sandbox is giving people like really fast access to a whole bunch of Cisco solutions and open source solutions. What it means to me personally is when I come to shows like this and I see the community's face when I tell them they can get hands-on with kit really quickly, really simply, and really with speed that cuts down through all the IT that they normally have to deal with, they can't believe it. They'll look in their eyes, so, well, I can get hands-on in minutes, completely free. Why didn't you tell me about this before? It's like, well, I'm telling you about it now.
It's been here all the way along, you just haven't been taking advantage of it.
Come to me to ask. And they just go away so fired up to actually get involved and get hands-on and join the DevNet community, and that's what it's all about.
You heard it here first, get over to DevNet, right?
The slogan of making innovation easy. So that's what we try and do in DevNet, is make all that extra work, all that brain power so easy to put down into technology and really break forward in what our customers and partners are really trying to achieve.
Listening to our customers, listening to our partners.
And to that point, I mean, the community is really what we're there. Our entire job is to serve the community and what's out there. And we have a good idea of what's needed, what we think is needed, but we love hearing at these events or through social media what it is that you're after. We just did a whole weekend event. We had 70 customers, partners, folks meeting with us, and at every break I was talking to people, what do you need more? What can we deliver? Because as we're building our roadmaps, we don't want to just make it up. We want to know what the community needs, and that's what we're after. So let us know, because
Yeah.
we love filling those needs and going through.
And I think that's the way we really do accelerate learning for the whole community, is by being out there and finding out what everyone needs, and then being able to rapidly respond to that and give them the tools, the materials, all the things to move forward.
And that's exactly where I wanted to go, because so much of this is about innovation at speed, right?
Yes.
We can have the greatest ideas in the world. If we can't put this into action as rapidly as the industry is demanding that we do it, all right, well then what good is it? We can tell our story, but we can't deliver on the story. How do we keep up to speed? Is it a matter of the team members, of everybody playing together in the sandbox? I mean,
a little bit that
A
way.
little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it is a little bit that. We love that, but it's also it's community-led. So, like, as the community come in with their ideas, they're the ones that are trying to innovate. They're the ones that know what they want to do, and they tell us what they want to do. So they're leading our pace of change by saying, "Hey, we want to do this. What can you provide us? What content can you give us that will satisfy what I need to learn or what I need to achieve?" And that's when we come in to really react to that quickly.
The other part is that as Cisco DevNet, we participate a lot in the broader industry developer community, right? So like Hank, myself, and Tom, we spend a lot of time at industry developer events, learning things outside of Cisco, learning about trends that are coming in there, and then doing the synthesis of how do we bring that back, how do we relate that to Cisco, how does it relate to our Cisco community of developers. And so I think that's another great service that DevNet brings, is that network operators, network engineers, developers can come to DevNet and know I can get a view of current industry and how it relates to my world, and how we are connecting those different roles.
absolutely. All right, so we've got just about 30 seconds left. I want to just end kind of with a little speed round here, a little quick question. How do all the different pieces of DevNet work together to help the community to learn, to innovate, to get where we all want to be? That's part of the conversation you guys are going to be having all week, but how do we let everybody know? Everybody comes together, we succeed?
Well, and the pieces are there for a reason. They build on each other. So if you come over and do one of our learning labs are built on top of Sandbox so that we can go through on that. And if you've never heard of Sandbox, well, once you do a learning lab, you know that it's there and that's a resource you can explore. So just by using kind of all of our stuff together helps with that as well.
Yeah, I think the goal has always been that if you're hanging around on a Sunday, or you have some extra time during lunch and you're like, I want to learn about Kubernetes, I want to learn about container networking, DevNet's goal is to have all the pieces there so that you can learn about it, get hands-on with it. We have a huge emphasis on the hands-on part, being able to do things, and then find the community. So we have a thing about learn, code, connect, and then inspire. So you learn how to do it, then you get hands-on and code it, connect with the other people doing it, and then inspire back to the community.
Love that. Last words over here to you, Tom.
I couldn't say it better than these two guys already have.
That's
so
the best last word we could even begin to imagine. Guys, it's been such a pleasure. Hank, Mandy, Tom, thank you guys for coming in, for spending some time with us. We're going to drive everybody over to DevNet. Again, thanks to all of you as well for tuning in. We're going to see you here throughout the week. Go visit the DevNet folk. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So learn, code, connect, inspire. You can actually find that. That's exactly how they lay everything out as well. If you go to developer.cisco.com, the DevNet resources there are very much hands-on, and I encourage you to go there because they're going to use the sandbox not only as a resource that you can go to on the fly to work with the different tools that may be available to you, but it's also a place to go and walk through the lab. So if you're just starting out, you're trying to figure out what an API is, and you're trying to figure out some basics, even if you're not in engineering, but you want to be able to converse better with those who are and start to understand these concepts, it will change your thinking. That becomes a place to go to. It's funny they had Hank Preston on there, so Hank had shared with us a little bit on TechWise TV about what he's doing around NetDevOps and network programmability and building this video series. He is sharp, just like all the rest of the evangelists as well. I can't tell you how much work goes into what he's doing, because it's not just about creating a video series like I do, where maybe I'm talking and I do some research and stuff. They're building tools. They are a hands-on group, and if you get a chance to go through the DevNet zone, you've got the ability to go get hands-on, whether it's playing games that they've specifically crafted to help you learn as you're playing, which is always just a fascinating concept to me. It's not easy stuff to figure out, or just learning more from the experts that are there. I encourage you to try it. Let's check over with more of that right now.